going to give you some quick and practical tips for grammar instruction. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to start off with giving you 3 pieces of advice before you teach grammar. Advice number 1 would be to consider observing your peers. Oops. Observing peers. Doesn't have to mean that you observe an extremely experienced teacher. Even watching another novice teacher teach grammar or anything can be very telling and informative for you. So if you have that opportunity to observe other people, it would be even great if they were using the same book that you are. You could go and have them present information and present, how do they present that grammar point, for example. Number 2, if number 1 is not a possibility, or in addition to number 1, you could consider looking online at such things as like YouTube videos. This has been a great resource for me. Make sure you watch a couple different teachers present that information. Think about how they take that grammar point and put it in context and how they relate it to the students in different ways that they present that grammar information. Those 2 things have really been useful to me, perhaps if I'm nervous or uncertain about how to present certain grammar points. And the 3rd point of advice I want to give you is resources. I don't know a teacher that doesn't have their preference for certain types of grammar resources that they use time and time again. You can use resources that are digital or book. Everyone has their own preference. Think about where you're going and which one will be more useful to you. Everybody's going to have their own biases in terms of what books to look for. I personally have a bias for Betty Azar's grammar series simply because I think the information is easy to understand. Other teachers might not care for it. And your textbook provides other example textbooks you could use. And having those resources ready for you so you have somewhere to go. Those are 3 pieces of before teaching advice. Let's move on to the during teaching. Advice number 1, I'm going to talk about, I'm going to call it, rules versus use. What am I talking about? I'll never forget one of my very first advanced classes, and there was a reading and I had to address a grammar point, and I was very nervous, and I researched all night long to be able to answer any unknown questions, and I got to class, and actually my students already knew all of the grammar rules. I soon learned that they knew far more grammar rules than I did. They knew the rules. They didn't know how to use those rules. They didn't know how to properly use it, when to use it, who to use it with, in what context, at what time. All of that was something we really needed to practice. So just because your students know the rules to grammar does not mean they can use them, which also refers to why we must teach grammar in context. Teaching the rules alone will not create good second language speakers for the most part. Very important. Advice I want to give you number 2 is to admit unknown information. All of us as teachers, we've been doing this over 10 years, are going to get questions that we quite frankly just can't answer. It still happens to me all the time. That's fine. I'm not going to let it disrupt my class. I have activities planned. I say, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to it. I'll look it up and we'll address it later. And we move on. Many times, that is my best way to deal with some of those questions I don't know, or questions that aren't quite related to what we're covering that day. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to panic. I'm going to address it later and save my credibility and make sure you come back to it at a later date. That's my advice. And my final point for during teaching would be trying to consider the fact you need to adjust to level. I had a really great friend when I was teaching in South Korea who was a grammar dictionary. That guy knew every rule in the book. And he was a great presenter, very entertaining, very charismatic, but he was not yet practiced in adjusting to ESL levels. That does take time. If you're teaching something like the simple present to your beginning level students, you cannot use complicated context. You cannot use high level vocabulary. You need to consider what level your students are at and appropriately adjust the way that you talk to them and the materials you give them when presenting grammar or when presenting anything. But these are 3 things I want you to think about as you begin or or maybe you're a seasoned teacher, but as you think about when you're teaching grammar.
Thanks for listening. Bye for now.